Hey friend, I'm Danielle Damrell, and I am so grateful that you're listening to the Created Worthy podcast. This show is all about honoring the life stories of women from different ages, beliefs, backgrounds, and experiences. Everyone's got a story, and instead of getting stuck in the trap of unworthiness, this is a safe place for stories to be shared. On this show, we chat about the transformative power of creative processing too, and how we can utilize our God-given creativity with intention to heal, grow, find joy, create simplicity in the midst of our chaotic lives. So pull up a seat at our table because we are all created worthy. Hello, welcome back to the Created Worthy podcast. Today, I am joined by another worthy warrior, Luisa Jimenez, also known as Executive Lulu. Lulu is a wife, cat mom, executive virtual assistant, and Pinterest manager who is helping fempreneurs grow their businesses strategically behind the scenes. In 2021, she started her business after working for a decade in corporate administration. During that time, she learned the importance of systems, processes, and most of all, organization. She started her business to take back control of her own schedule in order to start enjoying some actual quality free time. It didn't take long before she realized that not a lot of entrepreneurs actually have the kind of freedom in their businesses that they crave. She noticed that for most people, what started as a way to support themselves financially, fulfill themselves creatively, and carve out time for the things that really matter, like family, travel, and taking naps, of course, actually just turned into a maybe slightly less draining version of their regular old 9-to-5 job. Lulu is on a mission to change that so that female entrepreneurs can get back the freedom that they desire. She is the left brain structure to a lot of right-brained leaders, and I am so honored to have her as a guest. Lulu, thank you so much for joining us today on the Created Worthy podcast. I can't wait to hear more about your real life story. Hello! So just to start, I would love for you to just take us back to where you started off in life. Where are you from? And can you just paint a picture of what life has been or what life was like for you growing up?
Yeah, so I was born here in Southern California. I've been here my whole life, the past 30 years, been here. And I was born from two immigrant parents from Mexico. And we lived here in, I guess you could call I'm not sure how to call it, but we lived kind of in the middle of nowhere, like in the desert growing up.
Okay.
We're like in a super small trailer park. It's like you can almost miss it, but at the time there was nothing there around there. But most of my childhood memories I remember there, even though it was super small. But just growing up there, that's kind of, I feel like, what set me up for personality wise, and guess, yeah, basically.
Yeah. So you grew up in Southern California. Did you immigrate here with your parents, or had they already immigrated here and then you
They had already
were born?
immigrated here. Yeah,
Okay.
they immigrated here first, and then they had us when they were already married and, settled here. And so
Okay. Did they speak English?
my dad didn't. My mom
Okay.
was learning because she had came from Mexicali, which is super close to the California border. So it was pretty easy for her to catch on,
Yeah.
since that's when she started to come to school here. And that's how she learned it, was through school. Whereas my
Okay.
dad had came already as an adult, so he was, not
Yeah.
really knowing the language really well. He actually learned it through my sister and I when we started elementary school. So we were English learners, my sister and I, just because we spoke Spanish at the house. So naturally, we had to be in that category, which is kind of strange thinking about it now, because I feel
Yeah.
like I kind of forgot the Spanish and now the English is like more prominent than the Spanish. But I mean, I could still speak it well and fluent, I
Yeah.
understand it, but
I'm sure that for you, it'll be like second nature. Once you get into an environment like that, it's probably
yeah.
where it's like muscle memory, I would assume.
I know. And it was such a thing. Like they wanted you to learn English growing up. Whereas I think it's different now from what I'm noticing with kids is that they welcome it for you to learn, not forget your native language and then teaching you English is what I'm noticing from school.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because my sister works there. So I just was like, I'm jealous. We could have not forgotten our language.
Yes, it could have been so
Yeah.
intertwined with all of
Yeah.
your schooling. I
Okay.
do love that they're doing that more. And there are a
Mhm.
lot more school districts across the nation who are teaching Spanish at earlier years, which is great because kids can learn languages like that so much easier than a
Yeah,
teenager can.
I
At least that
know.
was
I'm
my
like,
experience.
wow, I love it. I think it's great.
Yes. So, how do you feel like growing up with immigrant parents affected your adult life?
I mean, obviously that generation difference, of where millennials are kind of more in tune with their feelings and speaking out about it, whereas my parents weren't really just taught to kind of be reserved about it. I think that's like what affected us in a way where we're like, okay, should we talk about it or should we just keep it to ourselves? Because my parents are they would be reserved about it. And it's not their fault at all. They just wouldn't realize that they were doing it.
Right.
That's what was ingrained in their way of growing
It's
up.
that when you know better, you do better kind of thing.
Mhm,
And I think that a lot of our parents, like whether they're immigrants or not,
mhm.
the mental health awareness was not really a thing of their
Yeah.
generation,
Mhm,
or the generations prior. So,
mhm.
living in this age where mental health is kind of on the forefront of so much of what we do, I mean, even in business, and I think that you can probably relate to this, mindset is talked about everywhere all the time. And that is very closely tied to mental health. Mindset is
Yeah.
your mental health. Um, so, as far as how that dynamic with your parents and them not really knowing how to maybe express emotions more overtly, um, how did that affect you in your maybe early teen years and did you go to college?
I just barely started going to
Ooh,
college. Yeah,
yay.
last
Not that
year.
college is everything. It's okay. Not
Yeah.
everybody needs to go to college. I think there are plenty of incredible human beings who
Yeah.
never did go to college. Um, so we're gonna definitely touch on that in a little
Yeah.
bit. But
For
in
sure. I have a lot to say. So
yes,
late.
but in your
Yeah.
early adult years,
Mhm.
so maybe teenage to early adult years, were there ever times in your childhood where you just felt like you were unsure how to communicate your own emotions because that wasn't being modeled for you? And again, I do want to say, like, I realize that your parents did the best that they can, and we always want to acknowledge that,
Mhm.
especially if you're still really close to them and that they
Yeah.
are still prominent people in your life, which it sounds like family is a big value of yours. And
Mhm.
I love that. But in this process of when we know better, we do better, looking back in reflection, was there ever a time that you were like, I'm struggling and I don't even know how to say that?
Yeah, for sure. It started during my middle school years. I just would always feel overwhelmed or very just triggered easily. I would feel like I'd get mad a lot. And they will just with the culture of, Mexicans say, oh, you're just very corajuda, which basically means, you're just someone that gets mad really easily.
It's just
But
in your blood.
yeah, like it's just that, but then when you start growing up and you realize what it was, you're like, oh, it's because it was hard for me to express and I would bottle it up and just would explode out of, nowhere.
Right.
But it was just because I was so used to doing that, like, okay, maybe I'm supposed to reserve these emotions. But I mean, over time I learned, and what's great is that my parents acknowledged, they're like, yeah, that was just our generation. Like we just don't we just didn't talk about it. Like there wasn't brought up or just don't mention it, and that was it. And just cope in your own way. And like that's it. I'm like, that's really sad. Like we talk about it now and they acknowledge that they're like, okay, well, I'm glad that we're not
It,
like that before.
yeah, I
So,
love that. There's redemption there.
yeah, exactly.
So,
So
is there any particularly important lessons that you learned while growing up? Any formative stories that you're like, yeah, this made me or plays a part in who I am today?
I would honestly say the patience aspect of my dad, and just he's been doing his thing for 30 years in landscaping since he came over here. That was just been his main career. And just
So
seeing
he's an
how,
entrepreneur.
yeah, exactly. And he's like, so did you learn from me? I'm like, well, yeah, you're your own boss. He's like, yeah, yeah. Like, so you're just by yourself if you're not feeling it one day. It's like, I guess. But yeah, he's a jokester. Like with everything, my dad likes to crack a joke. But yeah, I learned a lot from him. You know, the hard work pays off, and you just keep pursuing, and eventually it works out. And that's what his case was. He had a few jobs when he first came that just didn't work out. And he realized that, okay, let me try doing my own thing and my own business. And it worked out. And he's been doing it for 30 years and soon to retire already next year. So yeah,
Wow. That's
yeah.
incredible.
So
That's
that's
incredible.
good. Yeah. And
So,
definitely the nurturing side from my mom of
oh,
definitely get that from her, the mama side.
yeah. So you kind of have this perfect balance of like the
Yeah.
good qualities from your dad and your mom, and then you've got your angry blood. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
To keep going at it. That's what I use now. I put it to a whole different channel with
Yes,
that.
yes. Now you channel it into all different things, right? Now you just
Yeah,
use that as passion. It's no longer anger, it's just passion.
exactly. It's passion.
So I know that you're married. Why don't you
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about how you and your partner met?
We actually met when we were both in elementary school. I told him the first memory I ever had of him was on the playground. He was talking to someone underneath the jungle gym, and I was just hearing his conversation, thinking like, "Oh, how cute!" You know, like what he's talking about, the subject. And he made eye contact with me, and he was like, "What are you looking at?" And I just remember I was like, "I don't like this kid." I just like took off. Until this day, we laugh, me and his family, like that was my first memory of your son.
Yeah, that's
But yeah,
so
our families
funny.
have been close all through growing up. So we would do camping trips together, do little outings. So that's eventually,
Oh, yeah. So
yeah.
when did you guys officially start dating?
What was it, my mid-20s? That's when
Oh, so you
yeah.
guys were just like friends then through
Hmm.
school?
Yeah.
Oh, how fun. That's like it sounds like the classic story of like marrying your best friend, your
Yeah,
childhood best friend.
exactly.
That is so fun.
Mhm.
I love asking this question because I'm just a really curious person. How did he pop the question?
Where were we? I'm thinking, like, I know it was a park, but I'm trying to remember the name of the park. I don't know, but it was a park. And we were
Okay.
doing one of those, he remembered that I really wanted to do those swan type of, boat rides. It's like there's
Yeah.
of the swans. I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes sense, but
Yes,
yeah.
with the pedals.
Yeah, there you go. When you're
Yeah.
pedaling, yeah, and I told him I really want to do that. Like it looks so fun. And he remembered and he said, okay, we'll come next month and we'll do that. So we ended up going. And I had no idea. I think I had a feeling like, oh, okay, for the past few months, like, I think he's gonna ask me, and was anticipating every time we'd go out, but nothing happened. So I think that was the day I thought, okay, it's not gonna, I'm already need to stop thinking about it, that
Yeah.
he's gonna ask me. And then so it was that day where I had said, okay, I'm not gonna expect anything like here. And then during the boat ride, he was like, so we actually came here, and he's like, because I want to ask you something. And I was like, wow. Like I think I was just kind of out of it, like not
Yeah.
really expecting it. Because I was that morning, I'm like, oh, I'm just not gonna think, oh, will today be the day? Like or
Yeah,
something.
for sure.
So it did catch me off guard for sure, because I had already decided, and I just, he made his cute little speech, and I was just like in shock and was of course crying because I was in
Oh,
shock. Yeah.
I love that. So how long have you guys been married?
We've been married 2 years, 2.5 years already. Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's so exciting. You're
Yes.
still in the newlywed phase, right? How long is that? Is there like an actual time limit? Who
I
knows?
don't know. I always get worried when people say that. They're like, "Oh, you're still in the newlywed phase." I'm like, "What does that mean? Like, we're not gonna
I
get."
don't know why I said that to you because honestly, I've only been married almost 5 years, so
Yeah.
maybe I'm still in the newlywed stage.
I think
Um,
it's just different for everyone. I don't
right.
know.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, well, I would love to transition a little bit into your career. So I know that you worked for 10 years in corporate. At what point in corporate were you like, you know what? I'm gonna branch out. I'm gonna do something on my own. I'm gonna build something.
So it was actually during the pandemic where I realized, okay, I'm not really enjoying, these 9 to 5 jobs anymore. I felt drained mentally and physically, even though you're just sitting at a desk, just something about it, just after a while, if it's not what you're wanting in life, it's like your brain knows, your subconscious, that that's not what you want for yourself.
Right.
And it eventually starts affecting your body. So I felt like that was what was happening to me. And after having a very stressful job before the pandemic started, that's when I told myself, okay, this is not the world that I want to be in anymore. I want to do something for myself that allows me to have my time to do whatever I want with family, with friends, and just, be happy with that and have this job where it'll pay my bills, but it gives me the free time to do what I want.
Yeah.
So that's when the idea during the pandemic it happened. I had came across a TikTok of someone saying, "Oh, you can make your own virtual assistant business." And I thought, why? How can, how does this work? So I paid for the master class. I did learn a lot from that, and I started from that point on, was just
Okay.
from that master class. But I realized I did have a couple of loose ends that I wasn't sure how to go by it and how to find clients. So I invested in my first business coach. So after that, that's when I started picking up clients because I started to learn
Yeah. And
the ways
network,
of it.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so that's how it started.
That's awesome. So, were you doing both for a time where you were working in corporate and doing the virtual online?
No, I had left the corporate world before. Yeah,
Okay.
when I started. Hmm.
Well, that's risky and
Yeah.
also so brave.
Yeah.
So, that is incredible. I love that you were able to be like, "You know what? I believe in myself. I know I can do this. I know I can figure this out." And you did. And that is so awesome. I want to celebrate that. Snaps for you.
Yes, thank you.
So, what is a common myth about your industry? I just I just think that that's another fun question.
I think there's a few. I don't know if
Yeah.
they think I've heard like we're MLMs or
Oh, yeah, for virtual
scammers. And
assistants.
I was like, well, how though? I don't see the correlation there.
Yeah. And
Yeah, because I remember
okay,
seeing
so
past that.
for anyone listening to this, just to make it perfectly clear, virtual assistance is not an MLM. It's a
No.
job. It is a job. It is a job title. It is an industry, and they help a lot of people.
Mhm.
If you are an entrepreneur, you need a virtual assistant. All right, cleared that up. We can move on. That's so funny. So
Yeah.
let's talk about networking for a second. What networking methods have worked for you? Because that's a huge part of business, especially when you're in that growth phase,
Yeah.
um, and building phase and getting the foundation
Mhm.
together. So you mentioned that you hired a business coach.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So tell me a little bit more about your journey to actually growing your business.
Yeah, so I invested in a few business coaches that really did help me out. But usually I did my homework because the last thing you want is to just invest in someone and then not get an ROI in some
Yeah.
way. It's happened. Obviously, we all probably do it at some point, and then we're like, wow, that was a waste of money. I didn't really get what I wanted.
Yeah. It does
So
unfortunately happen.
yeah, so that did happen to me a few times, not a lot, because I did my research after a while and who I really wanted to work with. But usually that's what helped me out the most on how to market. I did even short little courses online, like looking through LinkedIn or I forget what the other one, HubSpot, just to kind of give myself more knowledge through what it was that I was doing or what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So that's honestly what helped me out was just the more knowledge I gained, that's what helped me set myself up.
And it
Mhm.
sounds like you really focused your knowledge. Like you mentioned HubSpot, which are those there's videos on training videos on HubSpot that are just free, right? As
Yeah,
well.
they have some free ones, and then they even have where you can get your own little certification
Oh,
afterwards.
wow.
So I think
okay.
that was cool. And I'm like, okay, well, and a lot of things that they taught were really knowledgeable. Like they it worked out.
Yeah. Earlier you mentioned that you are in college now.
Yeah.
Tell me about the program that you're in and what you're doing.
So I want to go for my associate's degree, specifically in digital design. I used to be creative growing up and I wanted to touch back into that. I believe it was last year I was looking to what program. I'm like, okay, I know I want to get my degree, but in what? And that just drew my attention with everything creative wise. And I know a lot of people do look for, graphic designers and
Yeah.
I'm like, I know I like to do this on the side, but I want to do it as a profession too, possibly, or maybe offer it on top of what it is that I
Yeah.
do. But I wanted to learn all the things that I had in there. And it had been 9 years since I graduated high school, or 10 years actually. So I thought, I don't think it's too late for me. And I actually got it
No.
from my older sister who had went during the pandemic and then she just graduated and this past spring and got her associates.
Wow.
And she's like, no, it's not too late because she's
Oh
2 years
my
older
gosh,
than me.
never too late. You could
No,
be
it's
60
not.
years old. And if you have that desire to go back and get your education, do
Yeah,
it. Do it. We have to listen to those desires because that's what helps us to know that we're living in alignment, right? Like those things don't just come up for us to ignore. And when we do, then we always wonder, what if, what if, what if? But when
yeah.
we do
Oh,
it, and I could totally see you being a graphic designer just from the things. Do you create your own graphics and stuff?
yeah, I do.
They're beautiful. And I love
Thank
following you. You've actually taught
you.
me a lot about business strategy and so much about like transparency and pricing, which is actually something that I really wanted to talk to you about on here because
Mhm.
that is not an industry standard. And
Yeah,
you have been very, very good about being like, this is my package. This is what I offer. This is what I do for you. And this is how much it costs. And this is how many spots I have available. And
yeah.
from the very beginning, I think I followed you now for a couple of years, maybe
Mhm.
probably since really close to the start of your
Yeah,
business,
that's what I feel. For
you
sure.
were you were doing some executive assistance work for somebody that I know really well who has actually been on Created Worthy like 3 times, Kara Joe. Shout
Yes.
out Kara Joe Knapp. You're awesome. We
We
love
love
you.
Kara. Yeah.
But I believe it was through her that I found you. And I just have loved watching what you put out and how you talk to your clients and how interpersonal you are and connected. And there's just something so different about how you not just present, but truly work. Like you show your work and you show the quality of your work by just your authenticity in from the very beginning of when you started. So I just want to give you props for that. Again, snaps for you. I've
You.
learned a ton from you. Um and just I just want to encourage you to keep doing that and that what you're doing is seen and it's so valued. So
Thank you.
thank you
I
for being
appreciate
different.
that. Thank you.
Of course. So you told me in your pre-interview stuff that your favorite quote is you can't choose where you come from, but you can choose where you go from there. When you hear that quote,
Mhm.
what memory does that bring you back to?
I definitely the time I call it the trailer park times.
Yeah,
That's how me and my
that
sister say
chapter.
it. We're like, we're the trailer park times. Yeah. Because there was a point of time where we obviously didn't have money. So that's like what I always reflect back to. But it was honestly one of the I feel like we had like the best funny memories during that time though. Like we had a good time. A lot of crazy times, but it was a good time.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a really easy parallel to see in why that would be your favorite quote because the truth is we can't choose where we come from. We can't choose our family of origin. We can't choose the struggles that we faced in childhood, but we do get to choose what we do with our story and the narrative we write going forward, which I think is why my career has taken quite a pivot in the last few years.
Yeah.
And now I do a lot more life story coaching where
Mhm.
I just help people find freedom from the narratives that have kept them stuck. And it's because of this very concept that you shared in your quote that when we feel like what we've been through dictates who we are capable of being, we get stuck and we lose hope. But when we realize that we are not limited by what we have previously experienced, but we actually have endless potential and opportunities in front of us, we get to choose the path that we have and the life that we have and the mindset that we have and walk forward through that. So how we approach peace is different. How we approach grace is different. How we approach joy is different. How we create those things is different. And how we tap into those things is different when we change those narratives that have kept us stuck. So I just love, love, love that quote.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that we always talk about on Created Worthy is creative processing. I'm sure you're shocked.
Yes.
So just to recap, in case this is the first episode you've ever listened to, creative processing is a term that was revealed to me back in 2021. And it is simply activating your creative mind to process through a certain intention. It's simple. You create, you pair it with an intention, and you get a result. So in the info that you shared, you mentioned that listening to lo-fi music when you work and drawing are now your primary creative processing methods. So first of all, what is lo-fi music? And second, can you take us through what it looks like for you to practice these things in action?
Yeah, so lo-fi music, it's basically, if you even look it up on YouTube, you'll get a whole mess of people that either have them live streaming that music at the moment, or you can just already pre-record a regular YouTube video. But it's just calm, relaxing music with a twist of, no, I like to say a little twist of like a beat type.
Yeah, like
but it does,
positive, calm music.
yeah, but it does
Ooh.
something to, I don't know, your brain in some way of just, I don't know, I just call it brain music.
I love that. I'm going to have to do
Yeah,
some
it
more
just does
research on that because
something.
that sounds like
And
just
there's
what
like
my brain needs.
there's different genres of it, whatever you want to look for. It's just, yeah, I really love it.
I love that. And then drawing, you said that drawing is something that you do to practice self-care. So how does that look for you? How, when you're practicing self-care through drawing, what are you doing?
So basically, I just follow tutorials since I wasn't a drawer growing up. I mostly just colored or just, write and that's it. But when it came to it, I just thought, okay, I need some kind of outlet for myself, self-care wise. And my therapist actually suggested it. She was like, well, why not try drawing? I told her I was never a good drawer. She's like, just follow a tutorial. Maybe you might be good at it. You never know. So I did try it one day and then I really liked it. So I showed her all my flower pictures the other day. She was so happy. She was like, yeah, that's great. She's like, yeah, but you say you don't know how to draw. I said, I
Yeah,
don't. I've just been following tutorials. So and she's
I
like, they
love
look
that.
really good. I was like, thanks. I try my best. But yeah, just being there, just following the step by step and seeing it come to life, just something about it gives me life, seeing that.
Yeah, I
So
love
that's
that.
I've been enjoying that a lot.
So that is creative processing in action. And that's
Mhm.
actually my favorite part about this term is that it is something that everyone already does.
Mhm.
Just most people don't yet realize the power of setting a clear intention to accompany how you're already creating. So for you, an example would be the purpose of drawing is to process my marriage goals or my my 3-month business goals. So it's
Mhm.
just continuing to create in the ways that you're already creating, but then
Mhm.
setting an intention prior to creating so that you, by the end of your drawing session, or
Yeah.
maybe for you, it could also be like streamlining, creating spreadsheets, any
Mhm.
kind of things like that. You
Mhm.
can pair any intention with that. And then by the end of that time that you spent creating, you have so much more clarity and you have joy because
Mhm.
you accomplished the intention. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
No, yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's truly just a tool that I think it's a free tool that is available to everyone that everyone's already doing. Now we just got to be like, okay, how do we set an intention? Like go back to the basics. What are the intentions that we need in our life to push us forward? Because There's a difference between intentions and goals. And sometimes our goals shift, but our intentions should never shift because our intentions are rooted in who we are and why we are who we are. And it's the more clear that you can get on the intentions in your life. So maybe it's, I want to be a more loving wife, or I want to feel joy in a season of grief. Those intentions are important. Those intentions are what push us forward. Those intentions are what grow us and continue to put us on the path towards accomplishing our goals.
Yeah.
So it's just that act of slowing down one little bit, like a little bit more. You're already creating, but slow down just 1 degree more to say, why am I creating what I'm creating?
Yeah.
So we are almost ready to wrap up. I would love for you to just tell us a little bit about what's coming up next for you in your life or business
Life-wise, I'm pretty sure there's something, but it's not coming up. Like, I'm pretty sure there's something. But I guess business-wise, hopefully expanding the team. I need some help, and because I mean the inquiries are coming in, which is really great. I love it, but I need I need the help.
Yes. Well, are you going to be posting on your socials for help?
Yes.
Well, then that is a big announcement. And if anyone is listening who is interested in helping executive Lulu, she would be the very best boss in the world. So highly recommend go follow her on Instagram at executive.lulu, Lulu. She also has a website, www.executivelulu.com. She's got so much information on there, and it's such a beautiful website. So is there any other ways that our listeners can best find or connect with you?
Yeah, so my website, Instagram as well. Those are the main two that I'm on that you can reach out to me. And yeah, hopefully you do.
Yes, for sure. Well, it has been so awesome to spend some time with you here today. And I am so grateful for your courage and vulnerability to share some of your story. Your ability to help other people find the structure in their lives and businesses is a priceless gift. So I want to encourage you to keep providing love and positivity through all that you do and creating in the ways that you've been called and equipped to. You, my friend, are created worthy. Thanks for listening and tuning in to the Created Worthy podcast. I hope that today's show resonated with you. And if it did, can you do me a huge favor and go leave a 5-star review? This helps more listeners find the show, and it expands the reach of the stories and concepts that are shared here. All the links and guest information are in the show notes. And if you're on social media, come hang out with me. You can find the Created Worthy podcast on both Instagram and Facebook, or come follow along with my personal IG page, where I just share more about the real, sometimes messy life of your fellow worthy warrior. Can't wait to talk to you soon, friend. And don't forget, we are all created worthy.